Ladies and gentlemen, I have a theory. Let's talk about the Black Blades. So it's been coming up a bit, and I think that the creation of a Black Blade is still one of the biggest mysteries in the entire story of One Piece. I think I know how to do it. Despite being introduced to the concept with Mihawk all the way back in the Baratie, we still know next to nothing about how to actually make a Black Blade. It's hinted at that Haki is involved in the process, but we're really not sure how, or if that is all that's needed. One of the more interesting clues that we've been given was in Wano. During Zoro's fight with Yukimaru, he says Ryuma forged his Black Blade through a history of battle, and Zoro locks in immediately, saying, "You said forged," and I was wondering about that. Do you mean its black color came from blank? But the thought and fight gets interrupted. And then here we see Sukiyaki telling us that even Odin was not able to turn Enma into a Black Blade. To me, this is confirmation that just massive amounts of Haki cannot be the answer here, since Odin was already constantly fueling Enma with insane amounts of Haki himself. Sukiyaki also suggests that if Zoro is successful in creating a Black Blade, it will also increase in rank, turning Enma into a supreme grade blade. So how do we create one? Here's my theory. See, during the fight with Kaido, he calls out that Enma is radiating a strange Haki. And I want to be very clear that this is not Conqueror's Haki. Kaido is pretty much treated in this arc as the expert on Conquerors, and he literally clocks Zoro's Ashura form as a projection of Conqueror's Haki later in this same fight. So the Haki that's emanating from Enma before this is not Conqueror's or Armament, at least not entirely. It's something new that even Kaido doesn't recognize. Add to that the current arc in Elbap where we're seeing the flourish of a new type of Haki in real time, and three of the strongest men in history clashing with no Black Blade to be found. I say that to say our current understanding of Haki itself is still growing. Now hold on to that thought, park it, and welcome me. An important tangent. There was a concept in One Piece called a cursed sword. These swords seem to have a will of their own, and can even cause the death of a weak user. The ones that we're aware of are the Kitetsu series and Law Sword. We're told that it's almost like these swords are quite literally alive. And in the midst of all of this, I think the idea of the breath of all things from Alabasta will finally become relevant again, because breath equates to life. And in this fight with Daz's bones, Zoro was developing the concept of a living sword. And now let's go back to the rooftop at Wano, back to Kaido, because eventually he does place what he thinks this strange Haki actually is. He thinks it's Odin, his presence or his aura in some translations. In the anime, we take this one step further when we see that Kaido is shocked at the sight of Zoro preparing his attack. And in the next moment, we see the face of Odin flash over Zoro's own. Now this could just be PTSD from Kaido, but I want to argue that it's deeper than that. That the strange Haki Enma is resonating is actually Odin's soul. If Zoe and Devil Fruits can house their own wills, it doesn't seem so ridiculous that a Great Blade can do the same. Zoro even talks to Enma as if it were alive and conscious. And now a deep cut from Thriller Bark. I believe that this is the reason that Ryuma was the only zombie that could remember his past life, because he was wielding Shusui, a Black Blade, and it housed Ryuma's soul. So despite him fighting like Brook, he retained his original personality throughout his post-mortem service. And the last piece of the puzzle, I think the cursed swords are incomplete Black Blades, where the previous users were not strong enough to completely transform the blade itself. So the swords seem to be alive, but they never cross the threshold of becoming a legitimate Black Blade. I'll say it plainly. I believe a Black Blade is forged from a new type of Haki that draws power from the user's soul. Either that or a still undiscovered form of Armament Haki that's rooted in that same concept, that it literally gives life to the sword itself. That we shouldn't be looking at the Black Blades as only extensions of the user, but that the swords are actually alive. And the black color isn't the same as Armament Haki from the wielder, but it's more like the sword is perpetually imbued with its own Haki. By the way, the reason I do not think this involves Conqueror's Haki is largely symbolic, because Conquerors need to be born with the potential of a supreme king. This is why characters like Rox, Roger, and Whitebeard were not able to create a Black Blade themselves. But Armament, like swordsmanship, is available to anyone, rich or poor, kind or otherwise. As long as you are willing to dedicate your life to the blade, then this feat can be achieved. And it takes a swordsman of unbreakable spirit and mastery to even create one. That's why the only confirmed forgers of a Black Blade so far have been two men, the sword god Ryuma and the world's strongest swordsman, Dracula Mihawk. And when he does do this, I think the process of creating a Black Blade will look a lot like a scene that we've already witnessed from our resident King of Hell. And the sword in question will be the Wado Ichimonji, and allowing Zoro to symbolically achieve his dream of becoming the world's strongest swordsman side by side with Kuina. Because like Rock said, promises are meant to be kept.